Hey Sai, you're a fire demon, right? So, have you ever tried lighting your swords on fire when you attack with them? I have tried it before, yes. But heating up the blade makes them more brittle, making them more likely to break. Plus, it's a little hard to see past a fire directly in front of your face. I have never actually seen it work in practice. I stand corrected. The art of the blade, a delicate skill that requires one's full time and commitment to finally hone to absolute mastery. While a rare few are prodigies who can master it quickly, and others who manage to come up with a way of fighting all their own, these are few and far between, but for the vast majority, it's something that requires a lifetime of training to get the hang of. Certainly not something just anyone can do. At least that's what most people think. But while it is true that it does take incredible time and dedication, it's not impossible for anyone to learn blade work. Even some animals have been known to wield a weapon, such as dogs if they've been trained from pups, or our monster of today's discussion. It was literally born into the way of the sword, the blade literally a part of it, and Glavenus truly proves itself as a master of the blade. Living nightmare fuel for anyone who has seen Disney's Dinosaur, the Glavenus looks like a massive red Carnotaurus with a cream-colored underside. It possesses a robust, somewhat bulky head with fearsome horn-like protrusions, also covered in sturdy plating, which will be important later. It has short, almost useless arms, but still longer and more useful than an actual Carnotaurus. Its back is covered with 2 rows of bony blue plates running from its eyes all the way to its tail. And speaking of its tail, we address the elephant in the room. It has a freaking great sword for a tail. A massive slab of steel, the length of the rest of its body trailing behind it, razor sharp and capable of cleaving in half nearly any creature unfortunate enough to be its target. All of this held atop a pair of bulky, muscular legs, powerful enough to not only hold 2 massive weights in front of and behind them, but also leaping great heights and distances. A hardy creature that can be found in a wide range of locales, ranging from relatively normal, like the Jurassic frontier and the jungle, to more brutal and unforgiving climates like the dunes, Volcanic Hollow, and Volcano, to even places like the Ingle Isles and the Tower, places frequented by elder dragons and creatures at their level. So it only makes sense that Glavenus is just as harsh and unforgiving as these locales. It is incredibly relentless and aggressive, marking its territory with deep gashes in the terrain, and should anything violate that territory, they will be met with a level of savagery thought only capable of by monstrous beasts like Deviljho and Rajang. Yet despite this, it is also a highly intelligent creature, using skills one would not expect from a hulking beast of its size, as well as intimidation tactics, like dragging its tail on the ground to create small fires to threaten potential targets. So, what will that aggression look like? Well, as one might expect from a giant theropod, especially one with specially designed fangs and plates around its mouth, it has a devastating bite that could easily crush a person. It can also straight up charge into you or hit you with hip checks. But, as one might expect, again, its tail that is basically a greatsword is a pretty great weapon. And despite its size, Glavenus can use it with surprising finesse. Able to thrust it forward in deadly stabs, spinning for insanely wide sweeping attacks, or turning to bring the blade cleaving down on their unfortunate targets. And, once again, despite its size, it is capable of leaping high into the air with its powerful legs, flipping rather elegantly, then bringing that gigantic blade crashing down to crush and slice its target at the same time. But of course, that isn't the end of it. No, that'd make my life too easy. Glavenus are actually capable of temporarily superheating their tails, allowing them to slice through nearly anything like a hot knife through butter. And, just in case you thought that was enough, that also allows their tails to inflict fire blight and leave you burning. And they can even scrape their tails forward along the ground to send flaming chakrams along the ground at their opponent. But doing this, or really using their tails in general, dulls the blade. That's what those specialized fangs and plates on its jaws are for. By placing its blade tail in those jaws, it can grind them in its mouth to sharpen them. It also holds its tail blade in its jaws to build up momentum before letting it go and unleashing all that momentum in even more powerful slashes. And more importantly, it collects the debris it grinded off its tail in an organ in its throat known as a flaming bursa, which it can later launch out as globs of fire that then explode. So don't think you're safe if a glob lands near you but doesn't hit you. Fun fact, humans also have multiple bursae, sacs of fluid in the shoulders, elbows, hips, and knees that work as cushion and gliding surface to reduce friction between tissues of the body.
And that's
Good to know.
So, how should one meet a Glavenus in a contest of the blade? Well, the water element is best for dousing the monster's flames. And while its attacks are powerful, they are relatively slow and take a lot of wind-ups. So if you pay close attention, you shouldn't have much trouble blocking or evading them. And, despite Glavenus actually making the flaming blade work, it still isn't perfect. Like I said earlier, heating a blade makes the metal softer and more brittle, and Glavenus' tail is no exception. While its tail is thick and sturdy, needing to break the tail as well as the tail blade, it is possible to break off a Glavenus tail, only when it is heated. Also, when you see its throat glowing, if you attack it repeatedly, you can damage the debris stored in its bursa, causing a premature explosion in its throat. You don't have to be a medic to know that can't feel good. And as for the armor, it's very cool. Just like with Glavenus itself, the reds and blues work really well together, and all the spikes and ridges on the armor give off an epic, intimidating appearance that give off the vibe that nothing should be messing with you while you wear it. So that is the normal Glavenus, but we got a ways to go before we're finished. Firstly, we have a Deviant, a monster that has undergone some form of change to become much greater than its normal self. Almost Elder Dragon level. In this case, Hellblade Glavenus has changed due to constant, almost obsessive sharpening of its tail, which caused its tail, scales, shell, and even eyes to darken. A much deeper blood red and black as opposed to its bright crimson red and lovely blue. Its tail being completely charred black with a red flaming glow. So, how is Hellblade Glavenus different from the normal version? Well, as one might guess, it is much bigger and therefore much stronger, capable of smiting even the strongest hunters with the greatest armor in only a few hits. But for the most part, its fighting style is similar, all the same moves and such, but the execution is now quite a bit different. And the hell in Hellblade Glavenus is quite apt, because alongside flames in its flaming bursa, it also creates blast powder. Its bite's now able to cover hunters with the volatile dust. And after sharpening its tail in its mouth, the bladed appendage will be able to leave clouds of blast powder with each swipe, spin, and especially its slams. It can even rival Teostro with its ability to spread and detonate this explosive powder. And still, only the second most dangerous powder I know of. However, all the same methods that work against normal Glavenus still apply for Hellblade. Use water and go for the throat. And just like last time, the armor is amazing. Just as awe-inspiring and intimidating as the normal armor, but with a darker, more menacing coloration and even spikier. Also, it has an extra fiery glow to give it that extra edge and epicness. But we're still not done, as we have one more Glavenus to talk about. A defense-damaging subspecies, the sulfur-slashing wyvern, the acidic Glavenus. Blending in well with this new environment, acidic Glavenus is a dark, somewhat sickly green, almost indistinguishable from the miasma flooding the Vale, and its blue ridges are now a dark silver, either too difficult to see in the limited light of the Vale, or blending in with the bones littered on the floor, walls, and ceiling. But the most glaring difference is the tail blade. As you may notice, it is no longer smoking or on fire, instead covered in a sickly yellow crystallized fluid. More on that later. During Shara Ishvalda's rampage, many monsters in the New World were forced from their original habitat and had to adapt to a new one. And some Glavenus made their way to the Rotten Vale and adapted to the environment. In a place full of toxic, flammable fumes, lighting your weapon on fire and spitting flames wasn't the greatest idea. And blood and many other fluids that coat every inch of the Vale are corrosive, making weapons dull and rust. So to adapt, the Glavenus tail slimmed down to fit in the tighter corridors, and subsequently, this lesser amount of metal made its tail lighter and more flexible. If normal Glavenus is the great sword, acidic Glavenus is the long sword. Able to move more swiftly and with greater agility, its tail able to twist and maneuver at angles the original could only dream of. So, does a new look and a new style come with a new attitude?
Oh wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Acidic Glavenus is as toxic as the Rotten Vale itself. Due to the lack of fresh meat, many predators, even the region's apex Odogaron, often scavenge new bodies that drop from the coral highlands, or take scraps after another predator has hunted. But acidic Glavenus doesn't stoop to such lowly tactics. It only hunts, tracking down and devouring any poor souls it can find. This means it's almost always fighting, from the common Gyros and their great leader, to apex threats like normal or ebony Odogaron, and even the mighty Tigrex. Anyone can earn acidic Glavenus's ire. The only two threats this green Goliath might back down from are the monstrous invader Savage Devil Joe and the effluvial elder dragon Valhazak. So, what does it look like when that toxicity is turned towards you? Well, it shares similar biting attacks of the normal Glavenus, but as always, the tail is where the action is. As I said before, it is lighter and more flexible, allowing for a wider range of movements at angles normal Glavenus wouldn't be able to manage, such as upward slashes or swinging from slams to horizontal spins. It is also capable of combos with shorter and faster swings rather than the single larger swings with bigger wind-ups, making it much less predictable. However, you may have noticed that the acidic Glavenus has strange crystalline spikes coming from its tail. Likely some biological adaptation to living in the Rotten Vale, these spikes are actually crystallized sulfuric acid. And while it does reduce the cutting power of the blade, it makes up for it by breaking off and either covering a target or hitting the ground and breaking to create clouds of corrosive miasma, both of which will wear down a hunter's armor, reducing its defensive abilities, leaving said hunter more vulnerable to deadly slashes after it runs the blade through its teeth to clean off the crystals until the acid builds back up and hardens. So, how do you counter this corrosive carno? Well, surprisingly enough, ditching their fire abilities left them with a weakness to fire. In addition, Dragon is also effective, especially when the blade is covered in crystal. for some reason. After that, thunder is your next best bet, with water and ice only being okay. And much like last time, you can only sever an acidic Glavenus tail during a specific time when it is not covered in crystals. The armor is pretty much just a recolored version of the original, but I can't deny the colors do work. The green, silver, and gold all just come together to give it a powerful, commanding presence. And again, all those spikes just give it an impressive appearance. And so, that is the acidic Glavenus, a really cool and unique subspecies that decently changes up the fighting style of the original. The way it uses its tail blades so much more fluidly than the original is a sight to behold, and the sulfur crystals on its tail can prove to be a real challenge. But with that, we have covered all species of Glavenus. It is truly an incredible creature, easily one of my favorite brute wyverns, and one of the most unique creatures out there in general. Some might think they're one-trick ponies, but they've got quite a few surprises up their sleeves, allowing them to basically use their whole bodies as weapons. And of course, they are truly masters of the blade, something I believe should earn them the highest respect. Well, there you have it, ladies and swordsmen. That is my lore on Glavenus. Like I said, it's probably one of my favorite brute wyverns and one of my favorite monsters in general. It is so unique and so cool. I love its appearance. The Carnotaurus is really cool, and like I said, it just looks like a giant Carno. I love the blue spikes along its back, and of course, the tail blade obviously is super cool, and I like the way that it lights itself on fire. In terms of its fight, I have a unique opinion of it. I like the way it fights, but it is somewhat irritating to actually fight against. Like I said, it's agile for its size, which is really cool, but that means it attacks fast and it hits really hard, so I don't think those two things should go together. If you're fast, you shouldn't hit that hard, and if you hit that hard, you shouldn't be that fast. Those are just the rules, I feel. And with the length of that tail blade, it can reach halfway across the whole freaking arena when it does its overhead slamming slice. But then I came to realize that just makes it a more challenging and unique fight. Although with the added explosions of Hellblade Glavenus, I really don't care for that. Those are annoying. And as for acidic Glavenus, the weakening of your armor is annoying, but again, unique and makes it more of a challenge. And like I said, I liked how much more fluid it is with its tail blade. So yeah, all in all, every version of Glavenus is really cool, and I like it a lot. Even though, like I said, Hellblade annoys me. As for next time, I gave an update on Glavenus, so I think it's only fair that another member of the Fated Four gets a touch-up, Mizitsune. It is a really cool monster. I love it. Beautiful bubble fox dragon. Such a beautiful appearance. I love the way it is in wild. Soulseer Mizitsune is also really cool, and Violet Mizitsune is, again, really beautiful. I like its coloration even more, and adding fire to its bubbles is just insane. Really cool, and I like it a lot, and I can't wait to talk more about it. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this, want to see more, go ahead and slash that subscribe button. If you like this video, give a quick cut to the like button. Leave a comment down below. Share it around with all your friends. Be sure to click the notification bell so you never miss it when I upload a video. And be sure to watch more of my videos. Help me get them watch hours up. Then I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, blazing swordsmen, stay sharp.